10 years old. That's when my body decided to fast forward through time, though it would take 17 years to understand what was happening. I didn't know then that my ovaries were quietly shutting down, that my body was going through something most women don't experience until their 50s. How do you explain menopause to a child who hasn't even had her first period? But I'm getting ahead of myself. My name is Maya Chen, and my story begins with a song and ends with a different kind of voice altogether. I was the girl with perfect pitch, the one who could hit the high F in Queen of the Night aria at age 9. Mom has videos of me belting Disney songs in our living room, my Chinese grandmother clapping along while Mom sewed yet another performance costume by hand. We couldn't afford store-bought ones on a nurse's salary, but Mom made magic with a needle and thread. Then came that winter concert. Standing center stage in Mom's latest creation, midnight blue velvet with hand-stitched silver stars, I opened my mouth for Silent Night and heard my voice crack like thin ice on a pond. The audience's laughter felt like shards of glass in my throat. Mom was in the front row, already on her feet to film, but I saw her slowly sink back into her seat, camera lowering, her face mirroring my confusion. That crack was the first sign, though we wouldn't know it then. What I know now is that menopause isn't just about hot flashes and mood swings. It's a complex cascade of hormonal changes that affects every system in your body. At 10, my ovaries were already failing, my estrogen levels plummeting to postmenopausal levels. No one expects to check hormone levels in a child. No one looks for menopause symptoms before puberty even begins. The nodules appeared on my vocal cords next, stubborn as stones. Mom, ever the problem solver, threw herself into finding a cure. Honey tea, traditional Chinese herbs from grandmother, expensive vocal coaches. She picked up extra shifts at the hospital to pay for it all. I'd wake at 2 a.m. to find her researching throat conditions on her laptop, the blue light casting shadows under her eyes. Estrogen helps keep your vocal cords lubricated and flexible, my current doctor would explain years later. Without it, they become dry and irritated. But back then, all we knew was that my golden voice was turning to rust. While other girls sprouted up and out, I remained frozen in time. The migraines came next, turning my world into a funhouse of pain. During one particularly bad episode in 8th grade, I collapsed in the school cafeteria, my vision blurring with auras that looked like shattered rainbows. Mom left during her shift to come get me, still in her scrubs. Her supervisor wrote her up for abandoning her post. She just held me tighter in the emergency room and said, "Let them write me up. You're more important." What we didn't know then was that estrogen helps regulate blood vessels in the brain. Without it, many women experience intense migraines. But who looks for menopausal symptoms in a 13-year-old girl? The swimming incident marked our first real crisis. I was 14, captain of the junior varsity swim team, when my heart started pounding during a relay race. Not normal race day jitters. This was different. My chest felt like it would explode. Through the chlorinated blur, I saw Mom vault over 3 rows of seats, fully clothed, and dive in to pull me out. She lost her job that week. Too many unauthorized absences for my doctor appointments. Later we'd learn that estrogen affects your cardiovascular system too. Heart palpitations, anxiety, panic attacks, all classic symptoms of menopause. But at 14, the doctors, all 7 of them, treated Mom like a hysterical parent. "Mrs. Chen," they'd say, "your daughter is just a late bloomer. Some girls develop slowly." One even suggested Mom was encouraging my attention-seeking behavior. I watched her shrink smaller with each dismissal, but she never stopped fighting. She just got smarter about it, keeping detailed journals of my symptoms, networking with other nurses to find better doctors. At night, I'd hear her on the phone with my grandmother, speaking rapid Mandarin about traditional medicines and healing practices, trying to bridge the gap between Eastern and Western medicine. The bone fractures started in 9th grade. 3 broken bones in 1 year, my wrist from a minor fall, 2 fingers from catching a softball, a hairline ankle fracture from simply stepping off a curb. Clumsy teenager, the doctor said. No one thought to check my bone density. No one connected the dots to realize that without estrogen, my bones were already becoming brittle like a woman 3 times my age. My sophomore year brought everything to a breaking point. I'd been cast as Maria in The Sound of Music, my big comeback. Mom went all out, working overtime at her new job to pay for voice lessons, driving me to every rehearsal, helping me run lines until 2 a.m. On opening night, she surprised me with a silver locket containing a tiny photo of us singing together years ago. "Break a leg, my little star," she whispered. But during Do Re Mi, my voice vanished completely. Standing there in Maria's costume, mouth open, no sound coming out, I ran off stage and locked myself in the bathroom with Mom's sleeping pills. What I didn't know was that she'd followed me. When the lock wouldn't open, she broke down the door with help from the janitor, her hands bleeding from splinters, screaming my name. My little sister Jenny found my suicide note in my pocket while they pumped my stomach. That night in the hospital, something in Mom changed. The nurse who had always followed rules became a warrior. She demanded tests, brought in her research, refused to leave until someone listened. The new endocrinologist she found actually ran the full hormone panel. I'll never forget the way she looked at me, really looked at me, when she said, "Maya, your body went through menopause when you were 10 years old. Premature ovarian insufficiency, POI." The diagnosis felt like a key unlocking a door we'd been banging against for years. Suddenly, everything made sense. The voice changes. Estrogen affects your vocal cords. The migraines. Hormones regulate blood vessels. The heart palpitations. Estrogen affects cardiac function. The broken bones. Hormones help maintain bone density. The anxiety. Estrogen impacts neurotransmitter function. The complete absence of puberty. Ovaries shutting down before they ever really started. 1 in 100,000. Those were my odds. Premature menopause before puberty is so rare that most doctors never see a case in their entire careers. My ovaries had failed before they'd even begun, like a computer shutting down before it fully boots up. The grief came in waves. Learning at 17 that I would never have biological children felt like attending my own funeral. Mom held me as I raged against my body's betrayal, as I mourned the future I'd imagined. That's when she finally told me her own story, how she'd adopted Jenny from China after multiple miscarriages, how she'd faced her own fertility demons, how family isn't about biology but about love. Hormone replacement therapy became my lifeline. The first few months were a roller coaster as my body adjusted to the estrogen it had been missing for 7 years. Hot flashes, mood swings, night sweats, all the typical menopause symptoms came roaring in as my system recalibrated. But slowly the migraines eased. The panic attacks became manageable. My voice, though different now, came back enough for me to start singing again. Not on stage, but in a different way. I started a YouTube channel about chronic illness in young people. That first video, shaking as I told my story, has now reached over 2 million views. The comments section filled with others like me, young people who knew something was wrong but weren't being heard. Mom joined me on camera for Warrior Mom Wednesdays, sharing her hard-won wisdom about navigating the medical system. Jenny, now in medical school, does monthly segments explaining the science behind POI and other endocrine disorders. We talk about the things nobody tells you about early menopause, how estrogen affects everything from your skin elasticity to your cognitive function, how without it, your body ages faster in some ways while remaining frozen in time in others. How chromosome tests revealed my POI was caused by a rare genetic mutation. Information that helped Jenny make informed decisions about her own health. Today, at 27, I run support groups for teenagers with POI and their parents. Last month, we helped a 12-year-old girl get diagnosed early because her mother saw our videos and recognized the symptoms. Mom comes to every meeting, teaching other parents how to advocate effectively. We've created the resource we wished we'd had, a community that understands what it's like to go through menopause while your classmates are just entering puberty. Sometimes, late at night, Mom and I still try to sing together. My voice isn't what it used to be, but we found a different kind of music in helping others. That silver locket she gave me on opening night? I still wear it, but now it also holds a tiny printout of my first normal hormone panel, proof that with the right treatment, you can find balance again. Last week, I found Mom's old symptom journals while cleaning out the garage. 17 years of detailed notes, medical research, and desperate prayers written in the margins. Charts tracking my hormone levels, notes about different doctors' appointments, articles about emerging POI research. On the last page, she'd written, "Today Maya got her diagnosis. Today we start fighting back." Below that, in fresher ink, "Today Maya saved another girl. Today we won." The girl who lost her voice at 10 didn't just find a different one. She found an army of voices, led by a mother who never stopped believing her daughter's pain was real. My body may have fast-forwarded through time, but it taught me that healing doesn't move in a straight line. Sometimes it's about learning to sing a different song. Now, when people ask me what POI feels like, I tell them it's like being trapped between time zones, your body operating on menopause time while your mind is still synced to adolescence. But I also tell them about hope, about hormone therapy, about finding your voice even when biology tries to silence it. Most importantly, I tell them they're not alone. Because in the end, that's what almost broke me. Not the diagnosis, not the symptoms, but the isolation of going through something so profound without understanding why. That's why I speak up now, why I share my story, why I've turned my medical history into a mission. And sometimes, when I'm talking to a newly diagnosed girl, I'll catch mom's eye across the room and see her mouthing the words she used to say before every performance. "You'll be a star one day." She was right, just not in the way either of us expected. Because sometimes the most important songs aren't sung on stage. Sometimes they're whispered in doctors' offices, shared in support groups, or spoken into a camera, reaching through the screen to tell another scared young girl, "Your pain is real, your story matters, and you're not alone in this." That's a song worth singing, even with a broken voice.